This is Trinont, and this is Path of Exile Necropolis. This is our slow playthrough. Papercut Tren has beaten Act 4. And I think we'll warm up the session with clearing out that pesky Necropolis. The Necropolis has something like 64 storage spaces for things. So we're going to take advantage of that. And I want to say our weakest piece of gear might be the boots. We can't really do much with that. Well, we can gamble. Armor, boots, armor, antique greaves.
So that you may grace them with fleetness.
No movement speed, no dice. Here, let's make some more stuff. Weapon, sword. We'll run the cutlass.
May the shine of Solaris burn away your anguish and aid this soldier and become a weapon to cut the wicked.
Aramore here talks longer and longer depending on how many corpses you've used. That's almost good. I don't think it's an upgrade though. Alas. But we've burned our corpses, so that's the important part. Make room for more. So one thing about this game is, if you've completed the end game to any extent, you get these vault passes, which is kind of like the game's battle pass, which is weird because they already have seasonal challenges which function as battle passes. And every time you log into the game, if you've completed on one other league, you have to right-click and dismiss the notification. Slightly annoying. Wish they made it so you can only get that notification if you've actually gotten to the point where you can open that vault. So, you talk to Tasuni. Tasuni's like, yo, go to Act 5. And we go through to the Ascent to do so. The Ascent is cold. It has a lot of goats. And Vendigos. Not Wendigos. Vendigos. Totally different. So Act 5, I feel like, is where physical damage kicks in. This is where you might regret not having ways to dodge attacks or have high armor stats. You do want resistances too, but not... I feel like physical damage is like the theme of Act 5. Obviously cold damage matters in this section. There's a lot of enemies coming up that will like to just hit us with attacks that hurt. I want to say those ice spheres are spells. And some of these attacks are very hard to avoid. The Vendigos, for instance, just do a teleport attack at you. Slightly frustrating. Here, let's get some doubt going. Is this the one with the Arctic Golem at the end? I honestly forget. Nope, no clue. Ironically, I don't remember what too many of the essences do. There's, I think, a couple dozen of them, and they all have different types of modifiers on their weapons. So yeah, there's goats, there's Vendigos, and then there's the Blackguard Jaegers. They're somehow still up here. I don't know if they're undead or not. They seem alive. They're not zombies. I don't know what they're doing hanging around with the Goatmen, but here we are. And we get the, the narration of Dominus saying, hey, go through the teleporter so we can get to Oriath. So that's how we get to Oriath, through a teleporter. One of the most important masteries in the game, if you're running mana at all, is this mana reservation efficiency. Hello, did I see the new bug? I did not. See if there's any all flames you can use. Wildwood Cultist. This is very dangerous, but we'll just do it anyways. Actually, yeah, we'll do it on the Truth Extractors. 6 socket squat. What? Sounds powerful.
This is not exactly how I pictured my triumphant return to Oriath.
So one thing about... So a couple of things. One, this is a reference to Terminator. In Terminator, they teleported through time and space and created like this little spherical hole in the wall. Probably inefficient, but whatever. 2... voice acting. There used to not be voice acting in Act 5 onwards for any of the characters. There still isn't for some, but they finally added it for 4, 5 of the 7 characters now over the patches. Hopefully they'll add more over time. Let me check something here. Sorry, just had a text I had to read. Wildwood Cultists are a little scary. They shoot a lot of rain of toxic rain. They're actually pretty aggressive enemies. So replacing them is a little dangerous, but replacing enemies with the Wildwood Cultists is a little dangerous. So the slave pins, if you look closely, they're kind of gory. There's a slave rebellion going on, and you can see, I think the gory part is the fact that there's some slaves, in cages underground that are still reaching out with their bloodied hands for freedom. I wonder if they ever get freed. Probably not. Well, that's terrifying. I guess that segues into this playthrough's one thing we can talk about this playthrough. Certain pieces of gear, normally, can only have a certain limit of sockets. Two-handed weapons have 6, body armors have 6. One-handed weapons and shields have 3. And these pieces of gear have 4. And these have none unless they're special pieces of gear. Nothing out of 1. And apparently there's a bug going on around right now where there's a way to make certain pieces of gear that normally should only have 3 sockets have 6, and that's kind of terrifying. This league has had a lot of weird bugs, I'll say. Cultist archers are very dangerous. They shoot a lot of explosions. They're not normally in the game, but that's why we're doing a playthrough of Necropolis and not just a general playthrough. Interacting with the League is kind of important for this playthrough, I guess. So there's also corpse explode enemies. I feel like the archers are the most dangerous enemy types right now, because they do chaos damage that explode in large batches. Like, look at how many corpses are, how many little flowers of doom are appearing. They also have a ton of health, really. Or even normal versions, so it's kind of weird. I get the feeling that bug with the extra sockets is going to be fixed pretty quickly. Just maybe. I accidentally deploy my banner. by Bruce Banner. Oh no, my mana reservation efficiency is giving me more reservation than normal. The meteors on death are from All Flame mod. They actually can hurt a lot in higher difficulties. Not sure about this difficulty. Getting smacked by a meteor does in fact murder players on occasion. Was that? Let's see how much it hurts there. Not much. Interesting. One of the more deadly options you can pick as a special effect in later parts of the game is players are hit by a meteor when they use a flask. You use flasks a lot in this game. So having that effect happen all the time can murder players quite easily. One reason these enemies are so tanky is they're empowered by wisps. That's what the wild empowered means. And all the empowerments cause enemies to have physical, well, damage reduction, a flat damage reduction. That's a little spicy. The slave pins kind of has a figure 8 pattern, so like it loops around to a dead end, and then it loops around to another dead end, with the second dead end leading to a boss. So kind of got to follow it like a figure 8. It's kind of like this interesting little loop effect. I might not be able to beat this pack if they leech life. And we just don't have enough damage. That's the downside of doing a playthrough with low damage, but tankiness. I feel like the damage, the health numbers in this game currently are very off-putting. Like, some enemies that are just normal packs have way, way, way too much health. And then, some enemies that are like full-on bosses have way too little if you try to keep up the numbers for the normal packs. It's really frustrating sometimes. Either you do too little damage and have good fights against the scripted encounters, or you do too much damage and just roll over things that shouldn't be rolled over. It's a little frustrating. It's not originally how the game is designed, and it's just the result of power creep and the devs trying to keep up with that power creep.
My spirit is spent.
Alright, we're just going to ignore that leech life pack. The leech life along with the damage reduction. See how this has a dead end? We're going to loop or figure 8 it. But yeah, with the fact that some enemies just have so much damage reduction, combined with like health regain, just makes them kind of unkillable, unless you can out damage them. A lot of PoE is kind of a gear check. Like, there's some fights you just can't win normally. If you're not prepared for them gear-wise. PoE definitely is about the gear. Seem to be being slowed. I'm gonna kill this guy with stubbornness. This enemy does have extra life, but it doesn't have health recovery. It does have energy shield though, which is slightly frustrating. And we are running still on a 3-link for damage, which might be useful to have a 4-link going on soon. Links actually tend to scale over time in the game. You can't get 4 links until like level 25, and you can't get 5 links until level 35. You can't get 6 links until level 50 or 55, I forget. I think it's level 50 now. So look how fast this rare monster goes that's not a Wildwood Cultist. This is a strong argument to not replace enemies with the All-Flame Embers. But they give omens, theoretically. But they are designed for more powerful characters to run through. Alright, there should be a boss around here soon. And we are probably going to ignore these Wildwood Cultists, I think. So yeah, Overseer Crow. Oh, physical resistant enemies, they're not dying. Watch how fast Overseer Crow is going to die compared to these monsters that are just magic packs. They're not even rares. Overseer Crow likes to cast Storm Burst. So we do physical damage when these enemies are physical resistant. And the only reason this fight's hard is because these cultists are right next to Overseer Crow. But yeah, Stormburst is ability where a bunch of tiny ball lightnings appear and then explode at once. I think Crow's the first enemy to die in this pack, so we're just gonna leave.
Good to have an audience again.
Yeah, let's just leave. And we talked to the leaders of the Slave Rebellion. There's Atula, and there's Lonnie. Lonnie got wounded, so she's walking on a cane right now. And I think we want a cold res ring. That's kind of good. That's okay-ish. Ah, freeze immune. This is actually useful, so we'll take it. Vendor... This... I don't think this is going to be better. Unless it has an open suffix. It does. Okay, maybe.
For freedom.
I forgot to set my loot filter to the normal value that I do for this playthrough. I'm doing on my other characters, I have a different filter going. If you're wondering about that confusion there. Sometimes I just like to mash gear together and see what the results are. I think, honestly, we're going to go to the crafting bench and craft fire res on this ring here. Spend one of our alchemy orbs on it. That should have been cold. That should have been lightning res. Whoops. Oh, no, it shouldn't have. Do we have all res? What do we have for res? All res. If we had double resistances, which is a recipe you can unlock, that would have been good. Well, let's see. What's our accuracy right now? 1900. Yeah, we'll craft resistances as time goes on. But we are kind of starved for resistance slots, so that's a problem. Cold res. We'll need cold res soon. I think we'll leave it like this. I underestimate how much fire res we'd be getting. Lightning res would have been the better craft here. I think we'd actually still need both, so... We want to end up with 105 resistances on all of these for reasons that will be apparent near the end of this act. While we're at it, do I have... How many sacred flasks do I have? 2. That can be 3 for hollowed. I sold this to our FOMO NPC that we can't get anymore called Parandus. Kadira Parandus. Used to be a character in the game, now you could have purchased him in a supporter pack from a few leagues ago. I actually don't like that decision to have NPCs and dialogue locked behind FOMO supporter packs that go away after a while. I actually think that's really gross. But I like supporting this game enough that I'm willing to buy them, so maybe I'm the problem. But I'm buying them despite that and not because of it. Ah. Starting in Act 5, a mirror with ourselves on the other side appears on occasion. It's not guaranteed. At the start, there's no voice associated with the mirror. That might change later on. But yeah, don't worry about it. It's just a delirious fog of madness where creatures from Nightmare just randomly appear. Well, not from the Nightmare that Act 4 had, but strange new monsters appear. Malice. I think there's other various names of monsters. And some of the normal monsters start twisting and deforming into Nightmare versions. There's Disgust. The Malice enemies, those tiny little exploding spike walkers, are kind of dangerous in that they explode on spikes. We haven't talked about divination cards yet either. Story-wise, we got a quest to kill Justicar Casticus. Yeah, so there was a nightmare thing there. It caused lightning explosions to appear. I never talked to Valenta either. But Utula currently is the weapon and armor vendor of the town. Lonnie is the potion vendor.
Daring dark and dingy spaces for science.
Valenta is also a character in town who's Piety's apprentice and want us to go pick up her miasmator, which hears the echoes of the beast. She suspects that killing the beast may have done bad things in retrospect, and things do immediately apparently this slave revolt, for instance, and the Templars getting extra zealous happened right after the beast was slain. I think we're going to go for Impale next, though. Razor's Edge is a good argument, too. What is our chance to Impale? I think we can see it on this character sheet. It's 120, okay, so we're over Impale chance. We want Impale effect. They also want accuracy at some point. We don't need crit chance though. Let's just get some damage. Our Golem Buddy died. One cool thing about the slave pens is if you ever see a broken fence, you can actually leap over it and skip some stairways and go faster. I think that's a neat touch. I'm glad the game has little level design and things like that. All side areas actually mess with the layouts of maps a little bit. I think we're still supposed to go this way, but if a Val side area appears in the map's layout, it actually changes the level layout a little bit enough to kind of mislead you as to where you need to go. I think this is still the right direction, though. Normally it'd just be a straight shot up, but they squeeze in the Val's side area. More Chaos Orbs. So a card dropped. This is called... Cards are pretty straightforward. When they drop, if you get a full set of them, 11 in this case, you get whatever it says. This gives a 6-link body armor, which is pretty spicy. Pretty good drop to have. And the big twist of divination cards is they are target farmable, which means that they drop from areas that... specific area types. Like dungeon areas, for instance, for Chains That Bind, or these slave pen areas. Casticus is here, he summons crows, that's about it. And he has blood attacks, I guess. There's not much to him. He's dead now.
My proudest trophy.
You get some eyeballs from Casticus. We need those to open up the Templar courts where Avarius is, which is who we're trying to find. Find and murder, the quest text says so. It's kind of like those eye locks that you see in movies. Yeah, we don't need any of this. I don't care. The All-Flame mods actually get pretty hard sometimes. It's kind of weird. Lonnie gives this reward for killing Casticus. We'll use the armor flask again because it has magic properties. It's not really good. It's longer duration. It's still better than this one.
For freedom.
Oh yeah. So the thing about the fog event, that mirror we walked into that creates a fog that dissipates after time, it drops cluster jewels. Cluster jewels go on the outer large jewel sockets and add more passive points to the skill tree in case you didn't have enough of it. And they're craftable jewels that have craftable skill points, which is, you know, a pretty cool idea. It adds a layer of complexity, and usually reserved for more in-game events. You rarely do a normal playthrough with cluster jewels, but you do make in-game characters with them. If you're an advanced player, you might have cluster jewels early, but I've rarely seen that.
Unlike these assorted ignorami, I'm not surprised to see you here. The beast is dead.
So that nightmare beast, the flesh cave we fought in Act 4, is dead.
I simply can't express.
And the miasmator
Farewell.
is Valenta's little prize, and we get a skill point for giving it to her. We'll take some more sword damage. One thing I'm curious about... Oh yeah, vendors can actually sell some decent items sometimes. I think this base lord, for instance, is actually okay for us. I think with the Fizz percent damage mod, this actually would do more damage. It's slower attack speed though, so highly doubt it. I'm not going to bother. Alright. So yes, the Slave Revolt goes up to the top. And... the Revolution for Oriath. Have some spicy enemies. Again, very Fizz damage oriented. This rare monster pack had a special loot explosion modifier where all the minions drop the same rare type, Secums in this case. Better Enduring Mana Flask, sure. Got lucky there. The Blackguard Stalkers are kind of dangerous enemies. When they jump into the ground and pop up, they kind of do an pretty quick attack on you. The Slave Catchers are pretty dangerous. They throw nets that slow you down, as you can see. You just teleport out of them, of course. I believe the Slave Catchers, no, the Slave Drivers were actually a good Spectre. one of the skills in this game is Raise Spectre, where you can turn any rare monster into a, or any monster into a permanent minion. Well, mostly any monster except for bosses. Or unique monsters. And so there's a whole meta around what are the best specters to use. It's a little bit... It's kind of a lost art these days, because specters... Well, not a lost art, but... Sadly, specters are underutilized currently because they were kind of nerfed to the ground, balance-wise. And that's mainly because they're just kind of too damn good. Like, if they're... The thing about specters is if they aren't nerfed, they tend to be incredibly overpowered, and I don't know how the devs feel about that. Apparently they feel like that shouldn't be the case, so here we are. Temple Guardians are kind of pesky. They have immunity bubbles that you have to be inside to hit them with attacks. They dissipate after a while, thankfully. As you can see, we're at the point where I don't care about loot on the ground as much, even rares. I might pick some up a little bit, because I do want to keep alchemy orbs in my repertoire, but we're getting enough items of in-game tier, or not in-game, but enough items that we're at the point where rares are starting to matter less. Instilling orbs are a new type of currency we haven't come across. They automate flasks. You click on one, and a flask will have a utility flask, the green ones, will trigger on certain events, like maybe use when the flask charge is reached to full, which is the one most people use. Or use when you take a big hit, or something like that. It's a random effect, but later down the line you can force craft a flask effect to trigger a flask enchantment. Most people use when charges reach full. I have no idea why the music's died. Sometimes the game bugs out and the music doesn't play. Like it loops improperly. And they've kind of been trying to squash that bug, but I keep seeing it pop up.
It's a ripe one.
Alright, the Templar
I should
courts.
think of something flashy to say to the judges that exiled me before I killed them.
So one nice thing about Act 5 and onwards is it was, in a mind-blowing decision, Acts 5 to 10 was all added at once instead of incrementally. They could get away with that because Acts 6 through 10 are divided into a second part that, I don't want to say recycle a lot of old places, but it does reuse assets a little bit more than the new Acts do. It still seemed like a lot of work, though. And it's not the exact playing through the same content again, which it was originally. Normally you had to go through, there's another mirror there. We'll just skip it for now. It's not in the way, and it's not going to give us particularly great rewards. Roman-ish red and black and white color schemes. You can kind of tell maybe what the devs were hinting at with, like, the regime Oriath might kind of be. Just maybe. I guess gold is also there too. But yeah, Oriathan was kind of an oppressive kind of theocracy, and yeah, like they're kind of being pretty obvious with what kind of what kind of evil empire this is. The expansion this came out in was called The Fall of Oriath, so might be able to guess what happens to Oriath by the end of this playthrough. It might fall, perhaps. How it will fall, we'll find out shortly. And Razor's Edge. Here's a court where we get trialed. Not the court that we saw at the start of the game. Alas, that one is not actually shown in the game, necessarily. Kind of appears in a cutscene, but we don't actually visit it. Templar Quartz is a big donut, kind of. It goes around and up. It's more like a U-turn. I think you always have to go right. Maybe you do go left. You can go left. I've never gone that way, though. Then there will eventually be stairway. Yep, there's some staircases, and it leads to the Chamber of Innocence, where there's some more... the higher tier of Templars appear.
Time to take my grievance right to the top.
And instead of going right, we go left this time. This is maybe where Avarius is. We'll have to go the long way around. Enemies get a little bit more magical in this top floor. Not sure what that's supposed to imply. Maybe they were always there. I get the feeling they weren't. They may have appeared recently after the murder of the beast. That's what I like to think. But the game doesn't really clarify too much about the appearance of solar elementals, or prayer guards that look like random magical monsters. They might be human, just set on fire, but I don't think they are. Because magic isn't normally supposed to be, like, present in this game. Like, sure, there's goat monsters and stuff, minotaurs, but... or centaur bull monsters, but... Thaumaturgy itself is unnatural, in theory, in a Path of Exile. So I wonder what the lore is behind the prayer guards, if there is any. Believe it or not, the story in this game, I wouldn't say it matters that much. People just plow through it. They try to flavor everything, thankfully. Like, there is lore behind everything. Except, I want to say one league they added robots that were gone from the game now, and the robots don't really make sense. They didn't even have dialogue or lore. It was kind of a disappointing. But but they never made it permanently into the game, so maybe that's fine. So this area does a lot of fire and lightning. Holy spells in this game are generally fire and lightning themed. Well, specifically, they tend to be originally physical damage converted into fire and lightning. So you have like 3 elements to worry about. The 3 damage types. Physical isn't an element, it's just a type of damage. I'll take the solid life flask. Fun fact, even though there's a tier above Hollowed Flask, we won't be using the tier above Hollowed Flask. We'll be waiting until the second tier past Hollowed. You can sell 3 Hollowed Flasks for a Sanctified Life Flask, and then the final 2 tiers of Flask you actually can only get from drops. Now, the problem with Sanctified Life Flasks is they actually heal for less and cost more charges, but they heal faster is their gimmick. So they're actually kind of less useful in a lot of cases, especially with the ability to make flasks have instant healing. I tend to stick with Hollowed Flask for the rest of the game until way later down the line. Chamber of Innocence is an okay farming spot. It has a lot of magic packs near the end. There's also a handy-dandy crafting recipe.
It's dirty work, but somebody's got to do it.
Aha, the crafting recipe. Probably gonna get a level on the next pack of monsters we hit. There we go, easy.
I believe in traveling light.
I'm gonna do something blasphemous to a lot of players and actually warp out. Since we're full on inventory, might as well just sell the items that we have. And most of these are just junk items to sell. Identify the rest. If you can go to in and out of town relatively quickly, there's not much reason to not just portal out if you're full on inventory and feel like you don't want to drop anything, in my opinion. Let's see. It might be time to get more Impale, since we are Impale themed right now. We'll want to go this way. Maybe consider Blade Dancer as well, but I get the feeling we're going to go down here. Alright, again, the Chamber of Innocence kind of does a big loop. I think we need to go this way. I may have undershot it, but there's basically, once you come to the end of the Chamber of Innocence, there's a giant pack of blue monsters, or 3 packs of them. Yeah, we have to go like here, essentially. The crafting recipe is not actually... the crafting recipe is never at the end of the passageway. You have to go up these stairs and down them again. Or maybe I'm making that up. Okay. No, okay. I'm misreading the tile layout. Weird. How silly of me. Is it truly over here? But yeah, it does do a loop. Yeah, you can see it. There's the 3 packs of monsters. Magic monsters. I guess of other note is there's no Trials of the 7th Season Act 5. We take a breather from the Labyrinth. Because there are more Labyrinths down the line, but they don't start appearing until... the trials for them don't start appearing until Act 6. Alright. Now for one of the... in the original release of Fall of Oriath, one of the harder bosses in the campaign for a little bit. Varius does a lot of physical damage. He hits a little hard. Varius has a lot of fair attacks. He does some kneel slam attacks. Halfway through his health bar, he will have an ad phase where he goes like, I'm the Emperor. I actually had a lot of trouble in this fight the first time I fought it. It was pretty spicy. I have less power though. Lancing Steel is, and the gear I have is way more powerful than what I had in an original release. Varius, please stop teleporting everywhere. I am your god's probably his most deadly move. You have to hide behind the statues to avoid the bullet hell, or just dodge it like a pro. Varius is dead, however, that was only phase 1. Turns out there was a deity inside in Avarius, and this is Innocence, the God Emperor of Eternity. Innocence has very similar moves to Avarius with a few extra fun things. When he dashes, lightning sparks appear. I am the storm. I am the torch is a little dangerous. It has a debuff of fire on you. The end is the AoE, the circle AoE. Innocence has to one-up Avarius, so has ad phase every third of its health bar instead of every half. So 2 ad phase instead of 1. How spicy. And also prayer guards appear. They're slightly buffed, a newer enemy type that doesn't appear in the first ad phase. The ad phase just is timed. There's not like you have to kill all the ads or anything. Excuse you. One attack he does is just he runs up and just slams the ground. It actually doesn't have a name. He doesn't announce it or anything. This is the point where if you don't have fire res or lightning res, this fight really hurts. Or physical reduction, for that matter. There's the god move that is like, hey, hope you are good at dodging bullets. There we go.
Innocence. You, and only you, I shall save.
And now we get a plot twist. Turns out there was another deity, Sin, you know, the brother of Innocence. And talking to him, that triggers the only cutscene in the game. Oh hey, the statue at the start. No crow on it this time. Just coming to life. This is scaled with master volume, so it makes like barely little noise. Because I have the audio turned down pretty low. I don't think this is better. Alas. Nope, certainly isn't. This could be okay. It really could be okay, yeah. Now if we look at the act map, there's question marks for the places where we came from. That cutscene actually shifted the layout of the game.
You've destroyed him, and yet I hear the voice.
Bannon here, a surviving blackguard soldier, has innocence inside him now. And Sen was like, hey, get possessed and get humbled. Matula ran away.
You deserve
Once Kitava has gobbled up.
And the statue is Kitava resurrecting. Essentially, we traded one evil for another. And instead, turns out the Slave Revolt was inspired by the cannibal god of hunger. So that's great. We have, and we have to go deal with that problem.
We're glad you made
Natula is a servant of Kitava now. Well, that could be okay.
freedom. You
Valenta probably has something to say about that too, but we're not reading the dialogue in this playthrough, otherwise it would take way too long. Excuse me. Now, the only problem is getting our gems linked. Actually, if we put this helmet on, I have an idea. I'm gonna try something spicy here. I have no fusings, never mind. If I get fusing orbs and can 4-link this, I can probably have a 4-link Lancing Steel. We'll just have to wait on that. Alright. So let's go back to the Chamber of Innocence. So yeah, the zone we were just in is no longer accessible.
They saved me the trouble of burning this place down.
And the Templar courts have become the Torched courts. We have to fight our way back where we came, because it's overrun with either Kitava's cultists or people that got immediately converted by the madness of Kitava. Oh, and the Delirium Mirror appeared again.
Farewell, innocence. And hello, my agent of anarchy. It appears I returned just in time for the party.
So Innocence was holding back some various deities from emerging with his Innocence powers, I guess. One of them's Kitava. The other was added in the 3.10 expansion, Delirium. They actually never told anybody that there was a strange voice behind the Delirium Mirror. They just had the mechanic showing. But around the time you defeat Innocence, and the Delirium Mirror starts appearing and gets voice-lined by some strange voice. The game never explicitly says who it is. Though later on, the lore implies that it's the trickster god Tengmazu. Though they never explicitly say that. They might do that in PoE 2, though. We'll never know. Well, we will once PoE 2 comes out, I guess. If Delirium will actually be a major character in the PoE 2 story. And another cluster jewel that we won't use. I use these gauntlets though. Fire, lightning. That's actually a lot of lightning res. This might be better. Sure.
Another good find.
So yes, all of the Templar characters have kind of gone mad. That's a problem. In fact, when they die, some of the scholars die, they turn into demon monsters. That's fun. Bone rings are dropping. Minions have a different scaling version of gear compared to attack and spellcasters, and any bone-oriented gear tends to scale with them, be it a bone helmet, fossilized shields made of bones, or bone rings. They all scale minion stuff. And the wands they have aren't bone-oriented, but they look like they're made out of bones. There's a calling wand, a convening wand, and a convoking wand in that regard. The waypoint was busted on the way out. We actually have to find a new one.
I wanted to raise the place, but This is just excessive.
So the Duelist was okay tearing the whole place down, but maybe didn't want Oriath to be entirely in flames. General just here. For all the randomness in this game, the Ruin Square is very laid out kind of the same each time. You go down, up in a Z shape, or an S shape in this part, generally behind the rebels. So we're going to go up here, I want to say. And then, yeah, we take a left, go yoink. There's some rubble that always in that little part pinching the exit. And the waypoint is here, and we want to go to the ossuary. That's actually a good belt. I don't think any of these are good, so we'll vendor them.
For freedom.
So Sin was like, yo, there's a, well, first off, there's a door there, and I'm sure we'll,
To a good old-fashioned graveyard.
since, like, there's a flag in the ossuary that might be able to defeat Kitava, so we're going to go pick that up. And the flag is actually right over here. Unfortunately, there's a wall between us and it, so we're going to have to take the long way around. And that will entail doing a giant U-turn. Oh, we got a level. This is a pretty important one. There's a skill called Point Blank that makes you deal less damage to far enemies, but a lot more damage to close enemies. And since we're close to enemies a lot of the time, we're gonna level into that. Hopefully it'll scale up our damage a decent amount. Frost Mage Gemlings. I might just not use all flames too much if they're going to... Well, I think the Wildwood ones are the only ones that are too much of trouble. Gemlings are okay. But I do want to show off the normal enemy types in this playthrough, so I'm kind of in a debate about it. Here's the Sign of Purity, just this little staff.
This feels like power.
Has the Power of Innocence in it. And Sen gives us some lore. Lo and behold, you get a crafting recipe, and we've looped around. No need to town portal or anything. Let's get Point Blank real quick. As for the rest of the Ruin Square, we have 2 more areas to explore. And 3 more quests to do. We have the Reliquary to visit for Lonnie, which is the thing to ward off Kitava. And then we have Atula to murder, who is in the Ruin Square. And then we have Kitava himself to fight off. I mean, I guess Oriath is a little fucked right now. Fall of Oriath living up to its name. I wonder if that's intentional that the corpses are right next to each other, like holding arms. Maybe. You know, this is pretty shocking horror and all, and gore, but after the Lunaris temple that Piety was holding, is there any, like, really thing that can top it? There's some pretty good gory areas later on, but I don't know, I'm not too impressed. I mean, I'm impressed, but not, like, devastated by all of this mayhem. We don't need any of that. Alright, to the reliquary. Ah, one of the good modifiers appeared. So, Kitava's Torments. There's 3 of them. They take up very increasing size of inventory space. They're in generally 3 corners of the map. One is on the north, one is in the east, one is in the south. We're kind of in the west side of the map right now. Or started the west side. This act ends around level 45, so we're gonna just speed through some of this, I think.
This'll do nicely.
Hinakor's hair. What? Why is there... Okay. That's a bug. A visual bug. Little ghost up there. Suatula was narrating the story of Kitava, which we could find out about if we listened to all of that. Basically, Kitava's stories are Kitava was really hungry and ate what he shouldn't have, and then just got cast down to the abyss for eternity until he rises up and eats the world. And our goal is to stop that from happening. Because that's rude. Alright, so then we go this way. Like I said, one of the relics is in the eastern side of the corner of the map. Valiko's Jaw, and there's another story.
To replace the Feast of Birds that Kitava had greedily consumed, Tsukuhama, our father of war, and Valako, father of storm, went fishing.
So Kitava ate some birds, and then
Was blind. He could still cast his line and feel when a fish.
and his eyes cut out.
So Tsukuhama and Valako took him with them on Tsukuhama's mighty canoe. But while they fished, Kitava grew hungry and secretly ate all.
So yeah, Kitava just eats too much stuff that he shouldn't eat, or whatever. And Tsukuhama's tooth. Now we can leave. We'll town portal out.
Not all slain.
And let's get some Pale back to chance. Elevor is like a spell suppression helmet, if I recall. Yeah, it gives a lot of spell suppression evasion. Pretty good for leveling. But we're not going to use it. You're bad too. Get sold. So the easiest way, in my opinion, to the next final area of the map. Oh yeah, Tula died, so we get a reward from that. And we will hand-in-handedly take a cutlass. And we got an upgrade. Wow, we lucked into that. Yeah, that has everything we want. So, props. I think our damage just went up a little bit. 1200 versus... Yep, got 100 more damage. And even slightly slower attack speed, but who knows.
Good luck out there.
less bleed chance but more accuracy rating, so why not? So the rune square is actually the one that says that you're closer to the next area, but the reliquary actually has a waypoint that I think is arguably closer. Because the cathedral's across the square, so the whole trek we had to make to down to the south end of the ruined square would have to be done over again, where you can just beeline to the west side of the square to get to Kitava. Again, the layout for the ruined square is very static. Oh, Einhar's here. Well, might as well take care of this. Well, bye, Hunter. Thank you for capturing the beast for me. Cathedral rooftop. So this is where things get a little bit more demonic. The Zealots of Kitava are here, sure, but there's also some heralds and some effigies that come to life. And some ghosts, of all things. Some wailing wraiths, wailing widows. Yeah, so the effigies, the statues will come to life and walk around. And this strange voice is very happy about all this mayhem. Delirium, which is the mechanic that this fog is called, is actually one of the bigger end-game ways to make things more lucrative. Or at least it used to be. I don't know where it stands in the meta right now. But generally, it can be applied to any dungeon in the game, any area, in some way. And makes it generally all harder by giving more loot. Only downside of this is the monochrome effect over everything. Everything becomes gray and foggy when you use Delirium, and having an entire zone be nothing but gray and fog, and then farming that constantly does get a little monochromatic. Maybe not the best choice for like the layer that you're supposed to add on to every other piece of endgame content. So, last I recall, most people don't do Delirium anymore because it makes the game too harder for too little extra reward. Maybe people do. I think you have to be at the very tail end of like player power to really utilize it properly. And there's the Delirium turning character into a nightmare version. Oh, there's a 5-socket item. It's not a 5-link though. Links are generally much harder to get than sockets. Like a 6-link item is much more rare than a 6-socket item. Yeah, we'll get a Tiger's Paw too. And Kitava's heralds, these gargoyle-looking things. Very dangerous. This one has Soul Eater, which is pretty bad. Might not be able to kill it. Especially with our slow attack speed. Oh no, we got it. It's funny how this has less damage than the Wildwood. Or more squishier than the Wildwood enemies we had. Alright. Corrupting blood removal is very important in this part of the game. You want to be able to remove bleed off your character as quickly as possible in this later stage. Alright, Cradle of Purity, that's where you put the little staff.
Now seems a good time to question my life decisions.
And the statue from the beginning of the game is the boss of Act 5. This is Kitava the Insatiable. Kitava has a giant fist attack. You want to not be hit by that. You can kind of tell where it's coming from based on when his hand's going red, he's raising his arm, he's about to punch down. Just generally go away from where he's facing. He also has a sweep the floor attack that you don't want to run with or be hit by. He gets more and more demonic as the fight goes on. He'll be annoying but yeah, there's the slam and wave. Put ground degen on. That attack is called the X Blast, if I recall. He opens his palm and raises it up, channeling some red energy. And then little X's on the floor appear and converge into one big X explosion, the X Blast. It really hurts. So you want to move away from that as well. Eventually, the Cradle of Purity, or the Sign of Purity, pulls out Kitava's heart. Which, you know, it's just chilling and there's an instant ad phase where you have to damage it to a certain amount. There's the X-Blast again. See how it converges. Hurts a lot. And that's the Slam Wave. The Slam Wave can actually be pretty annoying when you have minions, because sometimes Kitava decides to target the minions instead of you. You might jump into a Slam Wave by accident as a result. Alright. Let's not get hit by X-Blast. He'll also just throw debris at you sometimes, just for funsies. And now at the halfway point, he'll turn into full Kitava mode. He'll stop being a statue and turn into a nice big old demon with a mashing rib cage. Well, use your attack, you got get behind the Cradle of Purity. Just kidding. This is supposed to lose fight. Sin saves us.
There is no shame in falling to a goal.
So yeah, we officially have lost.
Is this what losing a fight feels like? Ugh.
For once. And we have to flee Oriath to find more power to kill Kitava with. That's the story so far. And Lily Roth
I'm Captain Lily Roth, and we sail.
tells us that it's time to go back to Act 1.
Alright, we're safe for the time being. Don't think I'll be forgetting that favor you.
Alright, well, we'll talk about this. So unlike the other acts, there's no prelude area to Act 6. You just immediately get teleported there. But yeah, we are not only in Act 6, we're in Part 2. The game's divided into two parts, the story at least. Part 2 is Acts 6 through 10, and you may get a feeling that we are going to redo the original 5 acts. So we're in Line Eyes Watch in Act 1, we're in Line Eyes Watch in Act 2, but this time, it's different. We'll explore what that means next time. So, while the stream may continue, we'll end the session here for the slow playthrough and resume Act 6 next time. Until then, have a good one.